Yo guys, what's going on? It's Rose here, bringing you guys the PPL Season 2 coach interview, and of course, with the coach interview, I have to interview someone, so I'm here with Vepsis, one of the coaches for this season of the PPL. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, and I'm really appreciative your time and effort putting into these interviews, because breaking the fourth wall, there's a lot that goes into this to make it all work, so I appreciate the time and effort you put into. This is not going to be your only interview, so as a coach, I just appreciate the content that we are getting out of this for viewers and for us coaches as well to reflect back on. It's really nice that what the job that you guys are going to be doing for this season.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And yeah, at first when we jumped into this, we thought this was going to be very straightforward. And then OBS decided not to cooperate whatsoever. So we spent like 30 minutes trying to get stuff sorted, but we're here now, and I'm super excited for this. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been doing Draft League, things like that. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, my friend.
Yeah, sure. So I'm pretty much a veteran when it comes to Draft League, when it comes to like when I started playing and how like long period of time I've been continuing to play. I started in Aura's time, so Generation 6. At the time, I was just a casual Showdown player, as a fan of GBA, fan of RBC Shady Penguin, who was probably the one that I first saw any kind of Wi-Fi battling regarded stuff. So I just came across on YouTube when I was just searching like Pokemon games and whatnot, and obviously as the YouTube works, it gave me a feed on a Wi-Fi battle. I'm like, oh, what is this? It says GBA week, whatever, Shady Penguin battle. Let me take a look at it. And just like that, I got hooked into it, and as I went along, I came across a name called Mega Mogwai, who was a big deal at the time.
Yep.
And he was the biggest influencer for me to get into it more, who I learned most out of, and it just kept going, and it's been like a really fun, like a hobby, and something that I've been really keen on of doing. Showdown-wise, I stayed there up until Generation 7, towards the second half of it. And then I finally got the opportunity to first start doing like a recording for draft leagues. I got introduced to some Showdown leagues, one being the NPL at the time. That was a really big Showdown draft league that had big names at the time, like Chipseekin was a reigning champion at the time as I was going into it, and there were Matty Prolik and Jolt as well. Like there were a lot of like these big time, at least Showdown perspective players that aren't as familiar maybe for all Wi-Fi casual fans. But that's where I started like getting into this like YouTube and Draft League coming together, and where my channel started first getting its baby steps going in itself. And then as we got into Generation 8, that's where I started finally like flourishing as a smaller content creator, still being a hobby, and it always still remains as a hobby for me. But Generation 8 has been like the big period of time that I've been able to like get my feet wet with the Draft League scene. I get a little bit of reputation and name for myself for, at the time big Wi-Fi leagues to introduce me and inviting me to their league. So it's been kind of baby steps. I've been playing for a long time. I have had my ups and downs along the way with good amount of success, but when it comes to like this YouTube stuff, it's really been just Generation 7, the later half, and entirety of Generation 8.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like you were saying, like there's a lot of guys from, way back in the day, like 2015, 2016, when Draft League kind of first started becoming a huge thing that got a lot of us into it, between, like guys like A-Drive for me, that was one of the, one of the ones that really got me into it. You're saying Shady and Luke and Patters and all those guys when they kind of started doing it as well. Obviously, Draft League kind of went through a bit of a rough patch somewhere in between, like late Gen 7 to like mid of Gen 8 is when it really started to kind of, diminish. But right around then, like you were saying, it picked right back up, and it became kind of a resurgence, and that's where a lot of people started, getting into it more so. And with, what I'm going to say are like resurgence veterans, is people that were there before when Draft League was flourishing to when it had that that down period, and especially once it hit, it just kind of took off. I mean, it went from 0 to 100 real quick. Because I even went even in like high school, I was watching your videos here and there doing these Gen 8 draft leagues, and it was really cool to see just like different perspectives of all these guys doing it for myself. And yeah, you and your and your Helsinki High Dragons, which I haven't mentioned yet, you have done very well for yourself in Draft League, and you're continuing to do so here in Gen 9. And I'm really excited for what you're going to bring to the table for this, as well as all the other coaches that we have, because we have a great lineup this season. I mean, the coaches that are here this season, I'm really excited for you guys to see it. So obviously, Oras was obviously your kind of introduction into it. What would you say is like your preferred playstyle? Generally, when it comes to Pokemon Draft League, there's like the three major ones, right? There's like Hyper Offense, there is Stall, which it's not a playstyle, and some sort of like bulky offense sort of way. So what what would you say is kind of following along your playstyle and like some of the mons that kind of that you've enjoyed using alongside that?
I would say for me it was somewhere between either balance to bulky offense. It was somewhere always in between there. Like it depended really a lot on the generation that we were in. Like in Generation 6, I found balance to be the one that I found myself most comfortable with and most successful with. And it also obviously goes back to the point that I followed Mega Mogwai a lot, who was like the first one really like showing team builders and teaching people like this is what Draft League is and this is how I prepare and how I can teach you. I was one of those people who really took his advice to the core when it comes to Draft League, and balance was the first initial playstyle that I came successful with. And Generation 7 especially, I would say bulky offense was more what I leaning towards, because C-moves were a big thing at the time. It was harder to wall things. So it really depends on at the time what the meta game is, that which side of the spectrum I am between those two, but it doesn't really go too far from there. It's very rarely I go like a Starly matchup or like in a Starly build per se, because I don't really find it that enjoyable to do myself, or going to the point of like being hyper offensive when the matchup is really up against you. I have to figure something else out of your roster, but more or less it's in between the balance and bulky offense, having decent amount of bulk and some sort of responses to the biggest threats that I see, but also have something that I work towards of winning offensively wise, and kind of having everything falling in place in there to help doing that.
Yeah, like you're saying, just having that kind of like that core for your team of stuff that's mainly there to take that hit if you have that switch into the big threats, and then having those things that can take advantage of that, whether it be with U-turn or Volt Switch or however you end up getting into this big threat, whether it be something like with this generation, things like Dragapult, Qianpao. Some leagues are introducing Darkrai once, with this new DLC, which is interesting because for so long something like that has been banned and just viewed as untouchable. It is never going to be allowed. But because of so much power creep over the last handful of years, it's kind of fallen into it's still very good, but it's kind of becoming more of a high-tiered usable mon versus a very, very good mon that it's never going to be seen unless it's an Uber's League. And we were talking about different playstyles, which, especially for Gen 8, having the bulkier, just kind of that sort of playstyle, that balance or bulky offense playstyle, almost impossible to play with because of the 20-minute timer in Gen 8, and for, I believe, a portion of time in Gen 9 before they fixed it. You could not play in that balanced offense. It just wasn't going to work. You couldn't out bulk someone, because then it came down to timer, and it was a coin flip as to whether or not you were going to win. At that point, it was just not possible in order to do that. Which is why, like in Generation 8, we saw a lot of mons getting defog and rapid spin and different hazard setting options, just to try and facilitate that hyper offensive meta, which is exactly what Generation 8 was. It was a hyper offensive meta. You really couldn't play too much anything else. You can get away with some certain bulkier mons, but for the most part, you had just hard-hitting, speedy mons that couldn't take a hit to save their life.
Yeah, and mostly in Generation 8, like a bulky mod that I depended on a lot, that I found effective to do that role, was something like a Slowbro, because it got access to teleport and how the teleport started to function.
Yep.
That was kind of like that's kind of the prototypical mod that I'm like, okay, this is a Helsinki High Dragons mod, this is the defensive mod that I tend to like. And it did its job so well, because it just tanks the hits, it lets me click the teleport or whichever move I feel like, but most of the time teleport. and then can transition myself from a defensive position when I'm reacting to my opponent and flip it to offensive position. That's like how I like to do it. It's not necessarily throwing defensive mode and just sit there for a while, because especially like you said in Generation 8, we had a timer that we had to find a way to deal with. We had a chess timer that we worked with. Towards the end of it, we started to, adjust to it and whatnot, myself included. But obviously it wasn't like for a lot of people, like an ideal world to play in, and hence why the draft league kind of had its a little down spiral when it comes to its popularity. But now in Generation 9 things are different, which is honestly great to see, because we can see the reflection on it, and how some YouTube content creators who used to play draft league took a break from it, thought never came back, and now they're being brought back into it. And there are still guys like myself and other coaches in the PPO who were around in Gen 8, and we are still here in Gen 9 as well. And it's like a really just mix of like both worlds being finally brought together to enjoy this format.
Yeah, Generation 9 has really blossomed the Draft League community. It's, like you said, it's bringing back a lot of the old Draft League players. Like we saw last season, guys like Joey Pokiem and MV, who took more or less a break from Draft League for a minute there. Joey especially, coming back, and Joey, it's like they never miss a step for them. Like these guys that have been, played for so long, some of the older veterans of the community, they obviously, most people took a break through Gen 8. They came back. Joey won his championship, and now we're seeing more of the retired veterans coming back out of the woodwork and kind of dipping their toes in the water, seeing if this is something, seeing if it's what they remember it to be, which is great. Like you said, like it's a great mix of the veterans and some newer guys coming into the fray, and just the ability that what Gen 9 has done to kind of give that mixture, like we were talking about, it has completely revitalized and completely changed the draft league scene. It has done so many such good things for it, and I'm very glad that that Game Freak fixed their mistake to give us this opportunity. What are you looking forward to for this season, whether it be certain coaches you're excited to play, or just like what are you excited for this season in terms of just in terms of that aspect?
For myself, I'm mostly excited just getting back into it, because I haven't really had a proper time to really play Generation 9 for Wi-Fi scene wise. I had a brief chance to be part of another league, but I wasn't able to continue it at the time. So for me, it's mostly just getting my feet wet again and getting used to it. Like I'm still expecting myself to find myself rusty a little bit early go.
Sure.
And in that way, probably gonna be some struggles along the way, but I'm hoping that I can do a playoff run and do some damage there. And there are gonna be a lot of coaches that I'm excited to play along the way. A couple of like highlights for my schedule that I'm sure a lot of people will be excited to see are week 3 and week 6 respectively. When I play week 3, I play Montai, which I'm not happy that it's coming that early, because the one time I got to play him in last generation at my prime, I managed to beat him, but I don't know if by week 3 I'm gonna be ready for him, because he's been playing all the time.
Yeah.
And everybody knows how good of a player he is. And then of course good friend of my Addison is winning at week 6, which we love helping each other whatnot, but we still are waiting for having that one battle that felt like clean and proper one that we got to mess each other, because it always felt like we always had some shenanigans going on. It never felt like okay, we had a proper game. So I'm hoping week 6 will finally be one of those that we can reflect back on and be like, that was a good battle regardless who won.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's why, like, when it comes to Draft League, especially when you have friends in the community that you're able to play on a consistent basis or very rarely, there's that added rivalry to it. Because no matter what, and especially because I've experienced this too. I have a buddy of mine where I do a lot of mocks for him, and every time I mock for him, someone gets hacked into oblivion, where it's like 4 freezes, handful of crits, burns, full paras, misses. I mean, it's just there's no continuity of the game, and you get a kick out of it because you're just like, you know what, that's Pokemon for you.
Yeah, because like something that always kind of gets under noticed is that there's a lot of time that goes into this. So regardless how serious you take your time to prepare, either having mock battles or you're preparing yourself like mentally as well. At least for me, kind of be like putting yourself into the camera and try to give to best of my capabilities a proper commentary to it, which for me might be a little bit more extra, because obviously English is by noticeably is not my first language, so there's always a little bit of worry that did I get actually my commentary properly, get my message out there, what I was trying to do and say.
Right.
So there's a lot of energy that goes into these battles, and you kind of hope as it happens that there's no like, Pokemon doing Pokemon things and it's gonna be game of all time when all the shenanigans go into a way, and then you reflect on be like, well, that's not really what I was hoping to see, regardless if I won or not.
Yeah.
So that's like mainly the thing that I'm hoping to see, at least in week 6 with Addison, that we can have a clean one and have fun with it.
But yeah, well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, English is my first language, and I still screw it up about half the time. So if that helps you at all, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, we've been talking for a little bit now, and you've seen me stumble over my words probably more times than you can count, just because brain moved quick. But I'm super excited to see what you're going to be able to bring to the table this season. I'm very excited to see the team you've drafted and all the those games moving forward. But is there anything going forward that viewers should be expecting from you this season?
If you're somebody that you can reflect on in a similar experience that I have, that Generation 9 has been an adjustment period for your playstyle and whatnot, and you want to get a handle of like what it could be, join and see what happens with myself, because I'm gonna be somebody you can really lean on and like see like from a different perspective how somebody has to adjust to it right away. But at the same time, as much as I expect it to be a struggle, I know I have knowledge to the game. I know the basics of the game when it comes to, especially for Draft League, how you have to prepare yourself, what things you can do in those kind of situations, and obviously give a proper commentary why I do things, why I expect my opponent to make certain plays. So not only you get to maybe get a little bit of reflection that maybe it's something you've been struggling at Generation 9 and getting grasp of things, you can also learn stuff from my behalf, and that's probably always been the strength of my channel. I'm not always the most outgoing guy, because that's naturally who I am. But I can be somebody that I know other viewers have always thanked me for and reflected on, being like, hey, I appreciate what you do, and I've been able to learn a lot from you. Which it always comes as a surprise, but once I started hearing it often enough, I can start believing that, okay, people generally do learn from my stuff. So that would be like main preference point why I would recommend to come and see my channel specifically, because I know I have a lot to give, at least for viewers in that regard.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for someone just coming back into the scene a little bit, having to kind of relearn the format a little bit, people, there's gonna be a lot of people that are coming in that don't know they don't know Draft League that well, or they're not super familiar with it. So giving someone that opportunity to watch someone that is actively learning with them is, I think, going to be great for a lot of newer viewers coming in, and even a lot of religious viewers that have been watching for a long time, just because there's gonna be a lot of people that have watched you for a long time, and they're gonna be seeing that he's coming back into it, and he's excited, and he's relearning, which always creates for fun. Whenever you're not super comfortable, that creates for some fun, because you're gonna be making plays that you probably wouldn't back when you were a little more comfortable, and it's going to create for some very fun reactions, because at least for myself, I get very heated. So when I do something stupid, I get very heated, and just seeing someone else kind of go through that same process is always is very exciting, because it means at least there's someone else going through the same thing.
It reminds that we are all very human with this. We all make human mistakes. So regardless, even if you're somebody called Montai, he's a human too, believe it or not.
That's crazy.
Even though he's a Canadian. yeah, I know. Considering how good of a player he is, he is ultimately a human and a Canadian while at it. So, but but yeah,
God,
it's again, as somebody that find myself like learning most when I can watch somebody else play. Like, you always can learn more when you take a, from somebody else's perspective and hear their thought progress. And I'm just one of the many people in this season that you can tune into and learn from their perspective. I will have my own struggles, but I have a lot to give as well for you to learn.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be a case for a lot of courses this season.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I want to thank you for your time today, Vepsis. This has been very fun between both during recording and previous. So I want to give huge shout out to you for taking the time and agreeing to do this with me. Super excited for what you're going to be bringing this season. Is any last little tidbits before we bounce off for today?
No, genuinely just thank you for your time as well and your effort going into this. And like I said at the beginning, thank you for everybody in the PPL for taking me back first and foremost, starting with Jack, and also for all the analyst stuff that comes into it, because it does require a lot of time and effort, and it's really appreciated whenever you see it being done for the league in itself, because even coaches, we do love to watch this kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot that goes into a draft league, so huge shout out to Jack and 1Z and Ellie and the whole mod team for bringing this together, and the rest of the analysts as well, because I think there's like 30 of us. There's a lot of analysts between everything that we've got going on, between the interviews and all the different extra things that I'm not going to mention to avoid spoilers. But there's a lot of people that go into this, and we're all like super excited for it. I was super excited when I got the offer for it. So huge shout out to the whole PPL team, and we will see you guys in week 1 for the Helsinki High Dragons Gen 9. I don't know if I want to say debut, but we're gonna go with it. So I will see Vepsis here. We'll see you guys in week 1.